housekeeping. Hello, and welcome to the webinar, The Evolution of AI Chatbots for Enhanced Customer Experience. My name is Laura Beth Ezel, the moderator for Retail Dives Brand Studio, and I will be facilitating today's discussion. Before we get started, I have just a few housekeeping items. Please note the slides will advance automatically throughout the presentation. To enlarge the slides, click the Enlarge Slides button located in the top right-hand corner of your presentation window. If you need technical assistance, just click on the Help widget that's located on the bottom left corner of your console. Now, we'll also have about 15 minutes for questions. If you have a question for one of our experts, please submit your question in the Q&A widget that's on the left-hand side of your screen. Now, if we aren't able to address your question on today's webinar, please know that we will respond by email to that question. Now, let me introduce you to today's speakers. First, I have Mr. Ryan Lester. He is the Director of Customer Engagement Technologies at LogMeIn. And then we have David Yakobovitch, Enterprise Data Scientist and Instructor at Galvanize.
Hi, great to be here. This is Ryan.
Thanks for having us. This is David.
Great, thank you both. Now today we're going to ask our experts, Ryan and David, to get into the technical details about AI technology and tell us why retailers are incorporating it into their customer service experience and how they are going about this implementation. But first, we want to set the stage with a little context. AI for retail is not about AI so much as it is about the evolving retail customer. Here's what we mean. As Ryan Lester is going to explain, we're smack dab in the middle of the age of the customer. Customers have more information, choice, and influence than ever before, and switching costs are incredibly low. If a brand doesn't deliver a great customer experience, a competitor is only a click or an app download away. Brands and retailers alike are realizing that the best way to distinguish themselves from competitors with similar products or value propositions is to deliver the best possible customer experience. And so digitally savvy consumers, that means online and on their own schedule. Ryan, can you elaborate on how we're seeing the retail customer evolving in today's omni-channel environment? How AI is helping companies adapt to these changes?
Yeah, Laura Beth, happy to do that. Thanks so much for that great introduction. I think what's interesting is we see this throughout our lives of the ability of instant access to things, immediacy, and things being personalized. So when I think about the way I live my life today, it's, I want to get the same results or answers, whether it's on my smartphone or whether it's searching on a browser or I'm trying to look up information through an Alexa. I expect a consistency and an immediacy of getting what I want now. And the challenge is that companies are being compared to every competitor, so it's not just you're being compared to people in your industry, but rather consumers are comparing you to the best-in-class experience. So they say, hey, DoorDash can deliver something to my door in an hour. Why does it take you multiple hours just to return my call? And so we have this challenge of customers don't want to sit and wait on hold for you. They don't want to send you an email and wait 2 days for a response. They want an immediate outcome. And they want it to be personalized, specific to them. So the power of AI and chatbots is the fact that they are immediate. They're infinitely scalable. And they're there 24 hours a day. So whether it's 2 a.m. and you have a single customer looking for an answer, or it's Black Friday and you have 1,000x the number of customers trying to get into your door, AI is there to scale. And furthermore, it does it in an immediate way. So you're not waiting for an agent to be freed up and to be available or an employee to be freed up. The bot is ready to answer those highly repetitive and always available answers. And I think that's the unique opportunity that we're seeing in the market today with AI.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. That's a perfect overview of the situation that we're seeing. But let's dig a little bit deeper, to look at what impact AI chatbots can have on a brand or retailer's customer engagement strategy. One of the first benefits we're going to consider is cost. A 2018 report from New Voice Media estimates that bad customer service is costing businesses approximately $75 billion every year. That's incredible. And yet many brands and retailers balk at the cost of scaling their current customer service setup, because hiring and retaining enough employees to deliver consistent 24/7 access and ramp up coverage during busy seasons is incredibly expensive. So, Ryan, can you share your thoughts on what kind of cost benefits companies are seeing when they start to deploy AI?
Yeah, this is a common thing we talk about with companies, and we see a lot of interest and excitement around, is it's aligning the right resource to the right value prop. And so the challenge today is it's hard for companies to segment inbound customer service requests or inbound customer inquiries. And what happens is they have high-value employees spending time on low-value activities. So password resets, track my package, questions about warranty items or related products. You have agents spending time on really low-value activities, and it's not really fun work for the agent either. They're stuck doing the same 50 things over and over again all day long. And so the problem is that you're training these people, you're investing in them, you want them to be the face of your business, but they're doing oftentimes very low-value work. So there's an opportunity with AI to take a lot of that repetitive low-value work and offsource it or outsource it to that AI capability, freeing your agents to spend time on higher value things, like dealing with complex customer problems or upset customers, or being more of a consultant to a customer. So the agent has the time to spend with them and less focused on things like average handle time and more focused on quality of outcome or even upsell. So you can have agents shifting from low-value repetitive tasks to higher-value tasks like selling more or being of more value to the customer. So there's this really unique opportunity to engage with more customers in a higher quality way, but doing it at a lower overall cost of delivery.
Excellent. Great points, Ryan. And that brings us to our next point, thinking about the actual customer experience. For many brands, it can be a struggle to balance the happiness of the customer service agent with the repetitive nature of their job. But employee experience is directly linked to important business outcomes like customer retention, customer satisfaction, and profitability, which means it's incredibly important to keep a finger on the pulse of your customer service specialist. And Ryan, what kind of an impact are AI bots having on customer experience as well as the customer service specialist? Why should businesses be using chatbots for customer engagement?
Yeah, the one other nice aspect of AI is the fact that it's very data-driven. So AI gets better with the more interactions you feed it, the more data you feed it. The algorithms become stronger at identifying trends, outliers, where there's opportunity. And so there's a great opportunity around having AI and chatbots help with things like NPS or customer satisfaction scores. One, because they help to get a more immediate outcome for the customer. They're also highly consistent in the sense of they're trained to do the same thing every time. And what we've seen is that 81% of consumers prefer to try self-service first before trying to reach out to a contact center and an agent. And we see this in all of our lives. We all run to a Google search bar to find an answer versus even at times turning to the person next to us and asking them the question. So this is a behavior we've kind of trained and is what many of us prefer. It also gives an ability to really help your agents behind the scenes. So, for example, if an agent's working through something, the AI can work behind the scenes to help them, making for happier and more productive agents. And there's lots of data that shows happier employees equal happier customers because, once again, they're the face of your business. So as you have AI not only helping the customer in a customer-facing self-service way, you also have the AI working behind the scenes to help the agent be more productive and also to help them do their job better, onboard faster, help them learn about new capabilities. So there's a really unique opportunity to improve both customer satisfaction and also employee satisfaction.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Another interesting point you brought up, though, is about that AI won't just improve the customer experience at a lower cost of delivery. It will actually enable businesses to more revenue from those customer experience engagements, which is just incredible. Can you expand on that concept?
Yeah, I think what sometimes gets lost here is that well, we think about AI, there's always this fear. There's this concern of AI is going to take away jobs, and AI is about cost reduction, and, we're taking, what was human work and just giving it to machines, when in reality there's actually a great opportunity to increase sales and increase opportunities for employment through AI. And so it's not just about inbound customer service, but also, as I mentioned earlier, it's about allowing agents the free time to do things like upsell or cross-sell or get to know that customer better so they can be of more value to them. What the experience everyone wants is that local corner store experience where they're known really well, the problems are known, their likes are known, and therefore a business can really serve you in a unique and differentiated way. So the opportunity with AI is that it gives you the ability to engage at scale. So on your busiest day of the year, the AI can start the conversation with every customer, help them through the early part of the journey, help with qualification or discovery. But then once it gets to a point where things become more complicated or the customer potentially is ready to buy, you can then bring in your human agents and have them work through the high-value parts of the journey or through the more complex parts of the journey. So there's an equal opportunity about revenue generation in the sense of you can engage with more customers but not having to be relying on then staffing more and more people. You can keep those people focused on the really high-value work. So there's an opportunity to both save money but also increase revenue by engaging with more customers through AI.
Great points, Ryan, and good things to be thinking about with AI chatbots. Thanks again, Ryan. The benefits we've discussed so far focus on why businesses should be using AI chatbots for customer engagement. Now we want to zero in on how AI can do things. David Yakobovitch, you've had a front row view of the ways AI is changing how retailers approach their big picture customer service workflow. The first point you mentioned was that retailers are using AI to reduce redundancy, something confirmed by a 2018 info study that reports that automating routine or inefficient processes is how 66% of organizations start off using AI. Can you tell us more about that?
I really appreciate those comments. And, where we are this week in 2019, I'd like us to set the stage of the direction of AI and the direction of the human design movement. As some of us may have heard this week, Fei-Fei Li announced the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence. Stanford is where a lot of AI got started in the United States, and now it's where the next direction is occurring, about harnessing design principles that govern the human brain to build more intelligent machines. And these machines are, as mentioned, helping us remove redundancies. It's very important, though, that these implementations are harnessing and serving the interest of humans rather than being deployed to undermine them. And so one of the big challenges as we start to explore this topic is that anyone who's designing artificial intelligence, whether in the laboratory or in the retail industry, has to put ethical questions at the forefront. And so with that in mind, with the exciting drive for AI going on here in 2019, as retailers here and executives on this webinar, you can think about your products today. And what is the current state of those products? And is there anything repetitive to it? Over the rest of this webinar, I'm looking to go into unique case studies for companies that are today excelling at chatbots and excelling at these systems, whether it's on platforms like Facebook Messenger and Kik, on a native website, using a Slack app, or integrating into your own app, or with a partner app like Alexa, OK Google, or HomePod. There are many opportunities to operationalize chatbots. But the big question comes down to is removing redundancy, and where are those lower order tasks that you could automate that repetition with the chatbots. So for example, one question, as Ryan alluded to earlier, is some of this hype and fear of missing out that AI will take over higher order tasks is a little overblown. Approving or not approving alone. That's something that you could have an AI system do, but it's important to have human oversight on the ethics to make the final call. So if you're a retailer like Burberry and you have released a chatbot at London Fashion Week on Facebook Messenger, perhaps you decide to use the chatbot to also not only engage with your customers, but also consider new credit card approvals. You'll still want to include humans in that process. So the AI is really to automate out those lower order tasks. Now, secondly, from a customer standpoint, you might want to consider your omni-channels, and those channels particularly that are brick and mortar, where you have the highest foot traffic from your customers. Just in the last few years, self-checkout lines have been growing in grocery stores and big retailers, including Whole Foods, including H&M and Nike, some of the other leading organizations with chatbots on the platforms mentioned before. What you'll need to consider for your brand is how are you going to include humans as part of that process? And that could be having this supervisor that manages multiple checkout lines and can offer manual intervention for more complex tasks such as discount codes, coupons, and special promotions.
Wow, David, that's great. And I can only imagine the impact that can have on a brand or a retailer's customer experience, in the long run. So now the same Infosys report goes on to say that as companies get more comfortable deploying AI, about 80% use it to augment existing solutions to optimize insights and customer experience. In what ways have you seen AI impact how a brand or retailer approaches its overall customer service strategy?
At all businesses, customer service is the forefront. It's how you not only drive sales, but you drive loyalty and repeat business. Both as someone in the AI industry and as a customer myself, I enjoy being immersed in experiences. And some of the ones this year that I found to be very novel include Starbucks. For their brand, they've released their own Facebook Messenger app where you can actually order your beverage from the app or the Starbucks app and tip the barista. So what's novel about this app is not only are you completing a task that you don't necessarily need a human for, but they're bringing back the human element of tipping the barista, engaging with your local Starbucks around the corner. I think that's one important thing that needs to be considered when you're launching a chatbot or these conversational systems is how do we continue to make humans part of that process. Another organization that I'll highlight that's doing this quite well is 1-800-Flowers. So 1-800-Flowers often comes to mind when you think about holidays and ordering for special events in your life. But what 1-800-Flowers has done is also built a Facebook Messenger chatbot where it starts with this AI type system where you consider who you're looking to send something to, whether that is a gift card, whether that is a teddy bear or a certain bouquet of flowers. And then if you do need extra personalization, you can directly dial from the Facebook app and speak to a 1-800-Flowers agent. So what this organization has done quite well is they have not eliminated the human interaction, but augmented that, as Ryan shared before. It's not only happening with retailers such as Starbucks and 1-800-Flowers. You could think of AI for customer service in other avenues that we as consumers experience every day. For one, if you shop online on this new modality of shopping, which just last week it was mentioned that now over 14% of all retail purchases are online, and some of those sales might be occurring on platforms like Amazon or Guild Group. But if you're like me, occasionally you've gotten a purchase that you've received that you haven't been completely delighted with, and you've had to request a refund. And engaging with a human throughout that process can be quite time-consuming as well as complex in sharing both the story, the feelings, and the narrative of your situation. Now, what platforms like Amazon and Guilt Group have done is they've automated this process. And what that means is there's actually a rules engine behind the scenes at these companies that, assuming you have certain customer purchasing behavior, they'll automatically grant you these refunds and then look later to see if that behavior is continuously repeating or is a standard customer behavior. What this allows companies like Amazon and Guilt Group to do is to help their employees focus on those insights and really focus on driving a better customer service strategy to launch new products and products that will sell stronger on their platform. So to take this all at a high level, normally when you request refunds, it's been the modus operandi to call customer service, talk to an individual, mention a complaint, and request that refund. And it requires a lot of human capital, including call centers, knowing the in-depth product knowledge to generate labels and return requests. And all of this can be automated. Customers can go to the website, they could sign into their orders, press to request a return, and either, whether that's directly on a website, on Facebook Messenger or Kik, or through a chatbot in a native app, with a few clicks and your input, a customer can have their return generated. It really comes down to thinking about the challenges with automation, that today we're at an inflection point. We're at an inflection point in 2019 where AI-driven bots can handle scenarios across the entire customer journey, from awareness to commerce to care. And these new conversational experiences are wrapped in machine learning powered targeted display campaigns. These are campaigns that focus on driving people into the bot channels to support everything from marketing to sales and to support. And these advancements that have been occurring in the last few years in the natural language understanding and the machine learning are making apps and websites no longer at the forefront. It's allowing brands, as highlighted here, Starbucks, 1-800-Flowers, Amazon, Guilt Group, to drive and invest in messaging and chatbot advertising for their customers. Although it can come to mind about the fear of bad actors and low margins in the industry, about customers taking advantage of returns, a great other case study that's interesting is LL Bean. So LL Bean is very familiar in the retail industry, and for them, they actually got rid of their return policies, which was, we'll take anything back as long as you purchased it from us. But I wanted to shed an interesting statistic that might be enlightening for you. And that what that statistic is, that in general, for every 10,000 bad actors, there's over 1 million customers who are doing the right thing and only making a return when they truly need to make that return. And so what that comes down to is less than 1% of your customers, and augmenting this with the chatbots, with these rules engines, those numbers can decrease further and drive more revenue for your company.
David, thank you so much for those, exact, examples of other companies and what they're doing. That was great information. The final point you wanted to speak to is about how AI helps retail organizations deliver more complex personalization. This is a really important piece of both delivering an excellent customer experience and driving more revenues. As a 2018 study from Epsilon estimates that 80% of customers are more likely to complete a purchase if a brand offers a personalized experience. David, what can you tell us about brands and retailers using AI to deliver more complex personalization?
Absolutely. So we're in what could be coined now this evolutionary AI movement. It's a movement where no longer are you receiving the same result as every other customer. Traditionally, the chatbots of yesteryear were system-driven, automated through scripts, very limited functionality, being only maintained with system context. And where we're at today in 2019 is there is the back and forth communication between the bots and the people. The automations occurring with each and every task that's either being spoken or typed. And these bots are able to maintain both that context to the task as well as the entire goal as a system. Where we're moving to for bots, and we're starting to see it both this year, and you're going to see it next year and into 2021, is the communication is going to occur at multiple levels, both between the system and the people, and then the people at the company and the people as the customers, and the systems of the bots and the systems of the company. Automation is going to start occurring at a service level where tasks are going to be maintained both in the system, between tasks, and between people contexts. In essence, we're having master bots that are going to generate, could I say, a bot operating system. That's the direction we're moving toward. It's a human-centered AI movement, also coined as that fourth industrial revolution. In essence, we're creating a better future for all of humanity, but it could bring both opportunities and challenges that we cannot yet foresee, as from Stanford's High Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence Institute, where Fei Li has spoken about this week with Bill Gates about the opportunity to improve consumer experience. All right, so let's translate that into practicality. I have 3 case studies I'd like to share across. This is about organizations today that are using these conversational bots, and they're taking these complex personalization systems and customizing it for customers to drive sales higher. And what are those organizations? The first one is H&M. So H&M, very traditional retailer. They launched in 2018 chatbots on Kik, which is another major messaging platform. And what's so fascinating about what H&M's done is they've almost created, you could say, a Tinder for shopping. So what they've done is allow you to choose between 2 images on your preferences, and as you're engaging with this chatbot, the H&M system shares back positive reinforcement with emojis and other images, and all your results as the consumer are being stored in a database and then being transformed with machine learning to give you personalized shopping recommendations. And that's exactly what this H&M Kik bot does. At the end of it, it recommends new styles, new trends and fashions for the customer to purchase and discover the closest point of sale to close that purchase. That's one case of customization that's live and personalized here in 2019. A second case is from Sephora. For those of us who know, Sephora has become one of the large makeup and beauty brands globally, and they've launched campaigns not only on Snapchat but also on Kik. And so I share with you, as you're hearing this term multiple times, chatbots are not only for Facebook and the websites and the Alexa and the Google and the Apple products. There are other apps that the Generation Z and millennials are using, and Kik is one of those platforms. I would strongly encourage executives listening on this webinar to consider. And so what is Sephora doing with that platform? They've built an app that's running through different quizzes to understand an individual's makeup preferences and what they enjoy in beauty. And similar to the H&M app, the Sephora app also takes all your data, stores a personalized profile for you, and then as a result of your answers in this quiz can recommend exact products as they're coming out in new seasons for you. So if it's going to be the Kardashians' new makeup line or something that's unique and private label to Sephora, those options can be available for the customer to have that personalized experience. The third retailer, segueing here, that I'd like to share about on their personalization journey, many consider to be at the forefront of the retail experience, both from pop-up stores to their flagship locations, as well as now their online presence. And that company is none other than Nike. What Nike has done is come out with a lot of personalization in the last few years. One could go simply to their website to customize shoes with different fabrics and colors and materials. But the barriers of entry to go to a website on a mobile device or tablet is challenging. And that's why Nike has created a chatbot that allows most of this functionality for changing colors on the Nike chatbot. So from different styles and different collections with the Nike ID, their 24 color spectrum, you could go onto the chatbot and customize and blend and match the specific shoe that you'd like to purchase, whether it's from your favorite basketball player at the NBA store or just a new fashion style to start off springtime. That's where Nike is setting themselves apart, personalized shopping experiences directly in their chatbot. At the end of this experience, a customer could go directly to point of sale, share on their social media platforms of choice, or continue to customize until they are delighted with their experience. So really, our takeaway here is that brands are no longer thinking about how to personalize an experience with, hi David, hi Ryan, hi Lori Beth, right? But AI and chatbots are getting more personal. There's useful personalization, which is allowing these previous purchase behaviors and the data available either through the chatbots or through your social network to create customized consumer profiles on content and offers. No longer are brands simply looking at what does my data tell me, but they're also driving statistics and insights for their organizations so that they can best support their customers with all the styles and trends that are relevant to the market today. If you're an organization who's not using statistics, who's not yet using data science and AI, there has been a recent trend that came out in a book called Data Science for Executives. And what it mentioned is that upwards of $1.7 million is being left on the table each year for every 100 employees you have working for your company that are not working with statistics, data science, analytics, and AI. That's money that's being left on the table that could be turned into sales to drive revenue higher. So now is a perfect time to get involved, whether it's with conversational bots, making your organization more data-driven, or getting started with AI.
Exactly, David. What great insight. Thank you so much for all of that great detail and those examples. So now that we've covered several of the ways retailers and brands are deploying AI chatbots to better connect, engage, and support customers, It's time to talk about how you should go about implementing a strategy for implementing this kind of technology. Ryan, we're going to toss back over to you. For brands that want to move forward with AI, I imagine this can seem, overwhelming at first. Can you talk about some important points to keep in mind during the implementation process and about how long a project like this should take to get up and running?
Yeah, great question. This is a common one that we spend time with when we talk with companies, either looking at AI for the first time or also companies that have maybe taken on an AI project, similar to what we've talked about of like a Facebook chatbot. They've tried AI and now they want to look at other use cases. So this is a common question of, what kind of ROI should I see? How long should it typically take? And AI can seem daunting, even for people that have done it more than once. But in reality, it doesn't have to be. We see companies that within a few months' time, 2 months, they can start to see significant results from even just starting the project through the point of it's deployed and they're seeing a positive return. So it doesn't have to be a huge project. However, companies need to take a strategic approach to it. And what I mean by that is AI should not be thought of as simply a technology. So it shouldn't just be, hey, we're investing in this new tech and it's going to solve all our problems. We use this little STOP model, so kind of stop and think before you proceed. And it stands for strategy, technology, operations, and people. And what we mean by that is you should make sure you have those 4 things checked off before you proceed. So does this project around AI align with our overall strategy? So, what are our goals? Are we trying to improve in customer engagement? Are we trying to get faster results? Are we trying to cross-sell or upsell? So does it align with our strategy? What technology do we want to look at? Do we want to build or do we want to buy? Do we want to buy a full solution or do we want to buy simply a feature? For example, like a web-based or a social chatbot, which really only does one thing. So what kind of technology do we want to adopt? What's the operational processes around it? So does this going to work with existing processes we have, or do we need to create net new processes? What are we going to do with the data? How are we going to monitor it? Things like that. And then finally, the people. So who do you need to have involved? I know we're going to talk about that more in a bit, but kind of who are the key folks that need to be in the room and need to be helping with both the definition, implementation, and then continuous improvement. So while once again that may seem a bit daunting, often it isn't once you understand the problem. So once you say, hey, well, why are we doing this? And then when you define that problem, kind of the rest of it naturally falls into place. And you can do this once again in a quarter. So it's not something that you think this is a 2-year-long journey. But an important part of that is learning and exploring. So pick a really good use case, have it be very focused, have it be something that's measurable, go attack it, get it into market, and then learn. Because the technology is really ready. The technology has matured quite a bit, so it's ready for scale. Now it's just a question of where does it have the best impact for your business. I think another thing too is that a good focus is really around where you're feeling the most pain. Where are your customers most frustrated? Where do you feel like you're throwing a lot of resources without a really good return? So, we often sit down and talk with our clients around what are those big pain points. Another good example of where we're seeing success is in product discovery. I think we've had some really good examples earlier from David around product discovery. We're working with a very top-tier brand that makes hair dryers. And while that doesn't seem like the most elegant part of the market, there actually are some really nice high-end hair dryers that are purpose-built for certain hair types and how you wear your hair and for certain climates. And their customers love their products, but they're, 5 to 10x the price point of a typical hair dryer you'd buy if you were to go to a Walgreens. And so the balance here is how do they help the customer find the right product, because they're going to love it once they get the right product, but at the same time not making them go through a lot of work. So you can create a conversational experience through a chatbot to kind of interact with that customer, figure out what their preferences are, how they like to wear their hair, and then guide them to the right product to meet their needs. That's a journey you're delivering through a conversational experience, And for the brand, it was a challenge of, we don't want to make them poke around our website. We don't want to have to look at a bunch of different information. We want to guide them through this journey. And they're seeing really positive results. So there's an opportunity to say, hey, where do we feel like there's the most friction, and how can we help AI to alleviate some of that friction?
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan. One of the practical challenges of implementing an AI chatbot is that you need to feed all of your customer service scripts and content into it. Depending on how extensive a company's training and knowledge base is, that can be a really intimidating part of the process too. So Ryan, what tips do you have for the content development piece of getting up and running with AI for chat?
Yeah, this is another common one that we get a lot of questions around of, do I need to redo all of my content, or my content today is dated, what should I do with it? And so there's a couple of things. One is going back to that focused use case. You shouldn't try to build a bot to do everything, no matter the channel. So even if it's on your website and you're going to put a web widget on your website and you're going to engage, say, hey, well, are we starting with customer service and inbound, or are we starting with customer acquisition? And maybe we don't have the bot be on every page. Maybe it's focused, our killer use case is warranty-related items. So we're only going to put it on pages that would be related to warranty or on a customer service page. So there's ways you can choose when and how you expose the bot. But once you understand what your core use cases are, then you can say, well, what content do we have today? Do we have a knowledge base we can pull from? Do we have some articles or content that our agents are using today? The nice thing is a lot of that content can be imported into many tools. So for example, our solution, we can pull that content in or link to that content if it exists in a tool today. And then all of a sudden now you have a set of articles you can pull from. We can do things like helping you, break it up into smaller pieces or make it more consumable via a chat window if that's the way you want to deliver the message. But the power of AI is it can get involved with a conversation, and if the customer needs something that's more complex, like you want to show them a video or you want to show them a 3-page article, you can either choose to deliver that in the window or you can redirect them to a new page or to a better experience. So the nice thing is that the power of AI and chatbots is not only about delivering information, so giving an answer via a message, but it also is powerful in that it can orchestrate the experience. So it can guide the customer to different pages. For example, we work with Edible Arrangements in the US, and they redirect customers to certain products based on the question. So if someone says, hey, what's popular right now in this season, they can redirect a customer to their what's popular now page. So there's ways for you to use the chatbot as a way to orchestrate content that already exists on your website, in your knowledge base articles, and in other forms of content. So it can both deliver the content or orchestrate that experience. And that's really up to you and what you think delivers the best customer experience.
Great. Oh, good. Those are some really practical, things to think about. As a last point, a lot of people hesitate to move forward with advanced technology like this until everything is up and running perfectly. But Ryan, you mentioned that when it comes to AI chatbots, that can limit the benefit a brand will see from the implementation. What's a better way to think about getting up and running with this new technology?
Yeah, so we do an annual report where we research hundreds of companies to determine customer experience maturity. And so we've done this report for a number of years, and we used to do it without AI, and we've started to do it with AI. And the interesting trend is that before AI, there was a gap between the experts and the experimenters of people that really focused on customer experience from the board level down to the frontline worker level, grew faster, they were growing faster than their competitors, and they were more profitable. The challenge that AI is acting like an accelerant to that trend. So AI is making it even worse, and that the companies that had an advantage, had been focusing on CX for a number of years, and now are doing it with AI, are even more so outgrowing their competitors from a revenue perspective, and even more so outgrowing them from a profitability perspective because of all the things we've discussed. They're creating more consistent experiences, they're doing it on more channels, and they're doing it at a lower overall cost of delivery. So they're growing by engaging more in a really great way, and they're doing it at a lower cost. And so the challenge is that you don't want to be left behind. And the way I talk about this is, companies that said, why do we need a .com page, or why do we need a mobile app? We drive most of our business today through our brick and mortar stores. And when you look at the world today, no retailer would say, well, we're going to have no presence in digital. And so AI is going to quickly become table stakes, and we're not quite there yet. The technology has matured where it's now something you can invest in and see an ROI, but there still is an opportunity now to use it as a differentiator and to get ahead of the market. And so the thing that's so great about AI is that the sooner you turn it on, the sooner you start gaining those learnings. And some learnings will be actionable today. So for example, you can turn on AI and it will say, oh, over the last week, these were the most frequent incoming requests. And therefore you can go tackle those first. So you'll have your kind of low-hanging fruit where you'll go after those quick and actionable items. But what you'll also find is that after you have it on for 6 months, you'll start to say, oh, there's these interesting correlations or interesting trends, or these are use cases we'd actually like to automate further through other tools, or deeper integration of our AI with our business systems, like our order management systems or our ERP systems. So it'll also give you opportunities to do broader transformational change as you start capturing that data. So the challenge is that you don't want to sit on the sidelines and wait, because you're losing in 2 ways. One, you're falling behind your competitors from implementing AI and seeing the value today, but you're also losing the opportunity to capture longer-term data and have that become another strategic differentiator. And so, I think what we really push on companies is start exploring AI, pick a use case. You should see a really positive ROI on that use case, and then rinse and repeat. And typically what we've seen is companies start doing that rinse and repeat process very quickly because the technology becomes, it's kind of self-reinforcing. It's self-learning, it's growing, and it gives you an opportunity to go try to tackle the next problem. And oftentimes it pays for itself. So that initial ROI then bleeds into the next project and the next project and the next project. So my real recommendation for those folks on this webinar today is, if you are sitting on the sidelines waiting, stop, go try to find a good, meaty challenge, and go attack it with an AI project. And based on the work we've done with our clients, I think you'll see great success.
Great. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Ryan. In order for AI to do what it does best, it's got to be deployed so it can start to work for you. Thank you so much, Ryan and David, for sharing your insights today. And now that you, our audience, have a deeper understanding of our topic for today, we have a few minutes left for our panel to field some questions. So go ahead and send those questions in if you have them. Ryan, this first one is for you. It says, technical question, is there anything that we as retailers can do on the front end that guides AI or bot chats on the back end that helps to guide the personalization outside of an Alexa skill, for example?
Yeah, and this is one thing that's really interesting about AI, and we could probably have another hour session on this, is, it's a very broad term. I do a weekly podcast called AI in Real Life, and I touch on a lot of topics. I tend to stay closest to customer experience, but AI is a very broad topic. So a thing like an Alexa skill is more like what David talked about earlier, where it's kind of a purpose-built interaction. So based on this input and this intent, I want you to deliver this output. And I wouldn't call it scripted, because it is using things like natural language processing to turn a voice interaction into a command, but they tend to be highly structured. They're good at doing one thing. And you can build more skills, but each skill is kind of its own automation activation. Where the technology is going, and this is things we work on with our clients, is that something like a conversational bot or conversational AI is more around understanding context. So the bot will see things, variables, that will say, oh, where's this person located? Or are they logged in, and what do I know about them? Or what was their last purchase? So the bot can start to integrate with things like your CRM or your ERP or your order management system, or things even like your website. So one is it can start to capture context of what else does it know about this person. The second thing it can do is it can also then start to work down conversational design, where you can say, okay, based on what I know, I can use predictive analytics and say, this is the next best offer. And it can say, I think this would be of interest to you. Are you interested? And then the bot can start to collect information. So going back to the example earlier with the hairdryer, we know they're on a page about hair dryers. We know they've been on the page for a certain period of time. We can do a proactive introduction to say, hey, I see you're interested in our hair dryers. Can I ask you a few questions to help you pick the best product? So now we know certain things about, they like hair dryers, we know where they're located, maybe they're logged in and we know what they bought from us last time, and now the bot can start to curate questions to engage with that customer. So the technology has really moved along quite a bit from just being single question answer, which would be the mental model of an Alexa skill, into a much more complex and coordinated interaction of different variables or data around that customer, and then using that to then do what's the next best offer or next best action. So I think for those of you that are out there, this is where things are now and where they're going. It isn't to say you have to implement all that at once. You can simply say, hey, let's build more of a conversational experience around returns or around product discovery. But the technology has really certainly advanced in the last few years to handle much more conversational and complex interactions.
Great. Thanks, Ryan, for taking that question. Another one for you, how does AI assist the area of pre-sales and cold sales for actively contacting potential customers who do not initiate the contact?
Yeah, this is another really great one. So there's a couple different ways. So one opportunity is to do it while the customer's in their discovery phase. There's some good stats out there that in general, people like to do self-service, and in general, they don't want to talk to a salesperson until they want to talk to a salesperson, and then they want to talk immediately to a salesperson. So there's this challenge of not being aggressively proactive, but being appropriately proactive. And the way I always describe it to someone is you think about walking into a physical store. You don't want you want the person to greet you and say welcome and give you a warm greeting, but then you don't really want them to engage again until you want their time. Another great example of this is when you go to a restaurant with their wait staff. You want to be greeted when you come in, you want to be sat down, and then when you want them there, but then when you're eating and enjoying your food, you don't want them to bother you. So there's some great opportunity with AI to do some real-time A/B testing where you can say, based on these certain characteristics, so what pages have they visited? What have they viewed? What do we know about them? We got to start to test when the right time is to engage. And the power of AI is, one, you can do unlimited number of A/B tests, so you can test all sorts of different variable combinations. And then you can also use broader predictive analytics tools, so you can feed AI data into data that's from your marketing teams or your sales teams or even third-party demographic data. So you can take that and put into a predictive analytics tool and say, hey, based on these variables or something about the customer on your website or in your mobile app, based on this, we think you should engage in this scenario. Then you test it, and you see how it works, and you test it against your standard. So there's a great opportunity with A/B testing to try to do more proactive engagement. And it can be subtle things of, I see you're looking at this, can I help you select the right product? Or can I help you with finding out more information? So it can be very gentle, subtle engagements, but ones that can then lead into a very rich conversation. So it's not a pop-up banner that then doesn't lead them down the road. It's an actual conversational design, and you're testing when's the right time to engage.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. All right, we've got more questions coming in. This next one is for both David and Ryan. The question is, any recommendations you'd share specific to internal chatbots? For example, HR chatbots specific to employee assistance, or that are similar, different from what we have covered so far? David, we'll start with you.
I think from an internal organization, and if you're supporting employees, so I think there's two things you could think about here. Firstly, if we're going to talk about employees internally, how is performance being tracked? How is Q&As and knowledge centers being tracked? How is information being discovered? Actually, this year, it's been really exciting because in Python, which has become the leading programming language in the AI space, there are now packages that let you operationalize a chatbot very quickly. And what I mean by that is knowledge centers internally for employees who work at a call center for companies like Lyft. They can now have their own chatbot to discover the answers to frequently asked questions to provide more robust customer service to the customer. I think the important thing to consider is if you're looking at internal chatbots for your enterprise, the creators of AI need to represent humanity, that true diversity of thoughts across gender, age, ethnicity, and cultural background, because those diverse backgrounds is making a bet on actually understanding how AI is impacting humans and society as a whole. In essence, what I'll say is if you're building AI chatbots internally for your company, these applications should be designed to enhance and augment what your human employees already can do.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I'd add to it is, so I think Python is a good example, and there's a lot of really good open source and broad community developed content. One thing I would caution companies on, and I'm biased on this, but is the build versus buy model is a common discussion. There are lots of amazing tech companies in Silicon Valley that will build everything themselves, and Google built Google Docs because they didn't like what was in the market today. The challenge, though, is where do you want to spend your time and energy? So I think there are a lot of good, great open source tools. The challenge is you're going to then have to build everything yourself, the knowledge management, the analytics tools, the dashboards. And so that's always a cautious road, and you have to decide where do you want to put your time and energy, and what kind of talent do you want to hire, and then do you want the talent working on chatbots or working on other AI initiatives. But I think that this use case is a great one. We're seeing a lot of interest in employee-facing AI. I did a podcast on this with our head of HR here at LogMeIn, and we did a chatbot for our open enrollment period called Benny, and it was a great success. We also have a chatbot internally for IT, and this is something that we're actively investing in as well as part of our solution. The one other thing I would quickly touch on in the employee-facing use case is that one thing that's different about employee versus customer is in customer it tends to be one-to-one. So you have the AI interacting with the customer. The AI can also work behind the scenes with the agent, but it's kind of a linear flow of the customer to the AI to the agent. In an internal employee use case, you have some really unique opportunities around, collaboration. So two employees working together on something, or employees providing real-time feedback on content. So there's a lot of unique opportunities in the internal use case that are different and really exciting to help employees, one, get much more engaged and get faster answers, be more productive, but on the opposite side, also become part of that engine that improves the organization. So AI capturing where they see opportunity for better content, better answers, better workflows, then using AI to then very rapidly redisseminate those learnings. So that's definitely a hot space and one I would recommend everyone to stay close to of AI is not just about customer experience, but also about employee experience.
Great, thank you both. Let's get another question here. How could AI apply to the service retailer industry? For example, a company selling building, maintenance, janitorial, construction services, etc. David, can we start with you on this one, and Ryan then follow after him again?
Sure, and I'll be mindful of our time here. So I'll say high level that AI is going to democratize every single industry and empower each industry to be transformed at every level. What that means is from an individual who makes decisions to having education for workers in the workplace to make better decisions guided by AI, like these chatbots that Ryan and myself both mentioned, as well as being better trained and prepared to grow in your careers on the job. Corporations are now able to use data to make these better products and services, and it will be tailored to your industry. what I would leave everyone with is a quote from Fei Li, the former chief scientist on AI from Google, who's now leading Stanford's High Institute in Human-Centered AI. She just said this past Monday, as the first generation to bring artificial intelligence to the world at scale, we have a personal responsibility and opportunity to work together and guide this technology towards a better future to humanity. I believe that, and that is from Fei Li of Stanford's High Institute.
Yeah, I think David put it well. I mean, there's a great opportunity, and I think where you can find a good pain point, go try to attack it in a purposeful way with AI. Continue to measure, continue to focus on continuous improvement, and I think you'll see great results.
Great. All right, let's get one more question in here as we've got more coming in. And just a reminder that any questions not answered, we will follow up after the webinar. This question is, what is your opinion on where the limit is for chatbots and when they need to be complemented with a conversation with an actual human? I've interacted with multiple retailer chatbots and felt they were slow and not as intuitive as I'd like. Ryan?
Yeah, so this is a common one we see. The quick way I'd answer this is that not all AI is created equal, and it goes back to my earlier point about being very purposeful about how you're using the technology and where you're using it. This is not a magic wand. And for example, I think we've heard some really good examples about things like messenger bots, so a bot you do through Kik or through Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp. But those tend to be very purpose-built. They're usually built for one thing, and they do that one thing well. A conversational experience, so for example, if you were to have a conversational bot that can do lots of things, a common example people like to talk about here in the U.S. is Bank of America and Erica. We won't talk about exact figures, but Erica was a multi-year, multi-million-dollar investment by Bank of America. And Bank of America has millions of customers, and so if they can save $1 per customer per year, that's a lot of money. So I think being smart about what's the use case we're going after and then design the appropriate experience based on that use case is really important out of the gates. And also knowing and setting that expectation with the customer. So saying, hey, I'm a customer service bot. I can help you with things like returns. That helps to set the context for the customer versus a bot on a homepage that just says, hi, how can I help you? Because then you're opening up the door for it to do anything. So I think being very deliberate about what's the problem you're solving, what type of investment are you going to put into that, and then what's the ROI you have on the opposite end is really important. Now with that being said, this is not a one-step journey. You can start simple, start elegant, and build from there. And so a simple example I give you is you could implement an AI dynamic search bar. So search bar is not based on keyword, but based on intent. So you can say the same thing 10 different ways and it means the same intent. You can start with something like that, capture a lot of data, and then use that to then build your first bot. And that's a wonderful, elegant, simple approach to tackling AI versus trying to say, we're going to build a complex conversational experience used for customer acquisition and for customer support, and we're going to put that on our website in the next 6 months. I think that's a recipe for failure. So being smart about the technology you choose, the business case you want to go after, and then being as focused as possible with that first implementation is typically where we've seen a lot of success.
All right. Well, Ryan and David, thank you both. There you have it. We hope this webinar has given you better insight into how brands and retailers are adopting AI technology to serve their customers and deliver a better customer service experience. If there's one thing you take away from our webinar today, it should be that AI technology has come a long, long way in the past 10 years, and companies that don't step in to see how it can augment and improve the way they deliver customer service are going to miss out on a huge competitive advantage. If you want to meet your customers where they want, when they want, and how they want, you want to be looking into how AI can help you do it. That's all the time we have today. A big thanks to today's speakers and, of course, our audience for joining us. As a reminder, today's webinar will be available on demand, and a link will be sent to you after the webinar. Have a great day, everyone.